Hey everybody, I am back again. As I said in back in the art room video number 4, I'm going to do a little bit of drawing now. We're going to kind of cut right to it and do kind of a recreation of the daily drawings that I did in my Art Is packet. So I'm going to do one for home and one for Rocket Man. I'm going to draw again with a stylus, and I have it set right now on something that looks a little bit like a pen. Kind of a pen that makes like a thick and a thin line. So that's kind of nice. That's how I like to do my comics. And it's, if you use one of these, like nib pens, like we have sometimes in class, right, where you can give a little bit more pressure and it sort of spreads out the tip and you get a thick line, and then you kind of go more lightly, you can get a nice thin line. But you guys can also just use a pencil. You could use some colored pencils. You could use like a marker. You could use whatever you want. Another thing I'll show you real quick, and this is kind of maybe something to look for in the future. This is a little ink pen that I have, which I've showed some of you, but it has like a replaceable ink cartridge. I can't remember the brand, but it's kind of nice. It's like it's got a replaceable ink cartridge, and then it has a tip that separates. Sort of like these nib sort of drawing pens that we've used in class before. So you can get a little bit of a thick line and thin line, and then at the same time you can put it back together and it doesn't dry out. So anyway, this is actually what I used. I really like these. This is what I used for the drawings in my packet. But today, in doing these drawings for you, I'm going to use the stylus again. So I'm going to switch over to screen share, and you guys can follow along. Obviously, don't need to draw exactly what I'm drawing, but you can maybe use this time. I imagine this might take me 20 minutes or so, maybe even a little bit longer. I don't know. Oops, I don't know if I actually shared that yet. Let's try that again and start sharing. Okay, I think I shared it this time. So so you can probably see my brush moving around on the screen here. I just want to see, yeah, that's pretty good. It won't. I'll try again not to do very much erasing, but just to start us off. So home is the prompt that we're going to draw. And at my house right now, I don't know how things are at your house, but at my house right now, we have a new puppy. So I chose to draw our new puppy, sort of Quince. And, I'm just going to start off again with somewhere kind of on the top of the head. This is, is not going to be 100% exactly like the drawing that I did before either. I'm pretty sure. It's pretty hard to sometimes recreate a drawing twice. So I've got like this start here where I've put some ears on, right? And then he's got this little tuft of fur behind his neck. And just like in the pencil drawing I did earlier, right now, for starters, I'm going to kind of try to block some things in fairly lightly. The top of his head comes down to about where this other ear is, and then it comes down here, and then his little snout comes out here. I'm going to sort of roughly shape in where his nose is going, right? So if you're drawing with a pencil, it's great. Drawing with a pen, it feels a little more risky, but it's also brave, I guess, right? And this stylus is kind of like a pen, except I could hit undo if I wanted to. I'm not going to though. So what I really do like about these is that kind of thick and thin. So you've got that shape in there. I also know that he has kind of like a little lighter patch of fur underneath his neck there. And then the next thing I want to do is where his collar comes in. I'm going to kind of block that in real quick. So whatever it is you might be drawing, right, you can think of these shapes first, and just these kind of places that you can come back to then to add more detail. I'm not super happy with the placement of that first eye, but I think it's okay, because I think when I add some shading, it'll change that up for us. So I've got the head, and the prompt is for home, not a dog. But I will tell you what, the dog has definitely sort of, taken over our living room, and that's pretty interesting when you've got everybody at home now all of a sudden. And among the other things, you know, that Quince has in the living room are a bed. So I'll draw that in a second. Right now, you can see the way this paw is, it's kind of like draped over something, right? So just gonna keep working my way around. Now that paw is kind of at that angle, and the other paw I can see is kind of at a slightly different angle. And you know what? They're coming down right out of the edge of my picture. That is okay. I'm totally fine with that. All right, this is drawing practice. This is kind of getting you guys thinking and sort of making marks on the page. Next thing I want to do in terms of roughing in Quince is, so I can see his back comes down here somewhere, and it meets like his face. So I see his little haunches, and they kind of come right into his face. Now, I can't think about drawing like the back legs of a dog. That sounds almost like too overwhelming. But I can draw this curve right here that comes down and meets that other sort of line like about halfway, right? And then there's another curve, which is actually like his leg, kind of tucked underneath him like that. Then the next thing I'm going to do before I start adding more details is I'm just going to look, like kind of rough in. He's sitting in his little dog bed. So our home is dominated by sort of this energy of the dog right now and everybody being there. And then now we've got these new sort of things around. And this dog bed has got like a little sort of cushion on the edges. It's just a little one we got from the local feed store. And it's kind of a rectangle. So it's like a rectangle with like a little bit of a curve on it, right? And it's fuzzy, so I'm making kind of a fuzzy line. And then its shape comes down around here. Now, it's barely noticeable in the picture that I was looking at, but there's a little dog toy right here. It has kind of this little rope kind of on it, and it's right outside of the frame of this picture. And then the rest of the dog bed goes around here. We'll sort of draw that going off the edge. And then Max. I keep calling him Max. Max was the name of our dog that we lost about 4 years ago. But Quince is a sweet dog in his own sort of right, and we're just getting to know him. He's got one of those like little chew toys you can stuff things in, sort of tucked into his bed there. And then this is a relative favorite right now. Got a little like cow hoof to chow down on. Just got like a darker, it's a little kind of cone shape. And then there's some sort of little stuffed thing with like floppy ears and a squeaker inside of it. It's laying right on the edge of that there. All right, so I'm kind of had to put those in because I'm trying to make this rectangle that comes around, right? But those things were kind of in the way of my line. And then the rest of the dog bed sort of is right there. So you can kind of see now, you can kind of see the dog, and you can kind of see the dog bed. I don't think I'm going to draw anything in the background here so much. I mean, for me right now, this is kind of home. And thinking about Quince, and I think I said earlier that I would probably end up drawing this dog in a lot of my things for you guys. There might be one other. There's like a little funny, weird stuff thing with a beak over in this corner. So now what I can do, and we're thinking about, I'm kind of drawing this like pen and ink style, right? I've got an outline. Now I need to build up some interests in sort of texture, just kind of adding like that kind of cross-hatching stuff. And so Quince is mostly sort of a dark dog, but he does have some lighter patches. So as I go around, you're going to see kind of just me. It's almost like scratching, sort of building up little layers. There's a little bit of the inside of his ear and some white sort of fur there. He's kind of looking up towards me, so I'm going to try to put those little pupils of his eyes kind of up in his head, right? This is where I make some adjustments to that eye so that I like it a little bit better. Already, just putting that pupil in there totally makes a difference. Cool. Okay, so then this, this fur down here is kind of even darker in the partly in the shadows, and partly because it is like a really nice like black fur. So even just like I talked about in the video previously where I drew the pencil prompt, right? Even with pen and ink, you can think about your darkest darks and your lightest lights. So I know there's going to be some light kind of highlights on his nose. I know there's going to be kind of a light highlight around the top of the dog bed. But using some cross hatching, using these like these pen sort of marks, I'm going to build up some other places where it's pretty dark. It's kind of dark over here in the shadows of the corner. Then it's lighter, so the marks are going to go like farther apart, right? And then there is, the other thing you're going to do in addition to darks and lights is you want to create, because we're not using any color, right? You want to create maybe a little variety of kind of the textures too. So maybe even though this whole dog bed is kind of like gray or dark, like I'm going to draw this like horizontal almost line that makes it look like the flat part, like where he's sitting, right? And then I can make it a little bit darker in some places where there's like shadow. Okay, so now we're starting to get a little bit of a sense of like, all right, here's some things that are a little bit darker. And you see how I'm drawing those lines, just like a little bit of a curve to them too. So the cushion around the edge of this dog bed is sort of round. So drawing those lines a little bit curved instead of like straight kind of gives it that impression of the shape. So that's kind of a nice way too. You guys can think about that when you're using your pencil or a pen, or even if you're painting, like paintbrush strokes can do that too. So you've got some things that are going flat and some things that are going a little curved. Now, the outside of this dog bed is going to be in the shadows over here. So I'm going to add those kind of sort of curvy like lines that sort of cross over themselves to build up some shadow over here. And they don't have to go the same direction either. Like I can make some of them go a little different direction, and then it starts to make, it's a fuzzy sort of cushion thing. So it just kind of gives it like more sort of interesting texture there too. Now, for those of you that are actually paying attention and sort of playing along, which I am not, I am optimistic and hopeful, but I am not. I'm not sure, which is okay. This is partly for you. It's also partly for me. It's good practice for me to keep thinking about how to talk about things as a teacher, right? On this break from school. So if you're looking at me redrawing this, but if you go to the Liberty Bell Instagram page, so that's at LBHS_art, you'll see where I have posted the original version of this, and then you can sort of compare how does my second version in a digital format compare to the actual sort of pen and ink version, right? It definitely looks a little different, but similar. Now, Quince is mostly like a black dog. He has some kind of light brown patches on him. But I do, in the interest of sort of making this like a little bit higher contrast, right? So I want his body to kind of pop out and stand out from the rest of the drawing. I'm going to start building up some more layers in here. And it doesn't have to be 100% sort of accurate, that's for sure. But if I want to give the impression that his collar's kind of like tighter there, and I want to give the impression of like this being kind of darker fur, I just need to kind of build that up slowly but surely. And then there's a little bit of kind of folds in some of the fur and the skin here, so like I drew kind of a little line there, and then this paw kind of draping over. This is where some of his fur gets a little bit lighter. So I can keep some things kind of darker here, and then I can also, right where his chest comes down, also behind the edge of that cushion, I can build up a little more sort of shadow. And I think that needs to be a little bit darker down there. So do a little bit more here. I'm not going to I don't know if I'll finish this entirely. If you guys want to see the finished one, I should do a little bit more in his face. So I'll draw some more. Because we still have we have these like folds in his belly. Now he's like a pretty black dog, so you almost get the impression that he's kind of a darker dog by having kind of this shading in here, and generally speaking, kind of things being mostly dark. I don't have to just color him solid black, right? Like if I colored solid black, we lose a lot of the potential detail that we could have in all these like folds and other interesting things about his shape. So I'll go a little bit more. He's got some little puppy muscles, right? So things looking a little bit sort of ripply down here is kind of puppy muscles. Where he has some lighter markings on his feet, I'm just kind of barely doing a little bit of texture. He has a little bit of gray, kind of black in his paws, and then things get kind of tan up on his feet, right? I want to give him the whole of his front a little more dark. Those lines are spaced out, but then when they cross over, I have to build up some shadows. Okay, I think I'm getting pretty. I'll do a little more up in his face because you can watch what happens when we do just a little bit more sort of around his face. I'm going to show this one. He has like a little bit of a white kind of muzzle. And I don't want to have very many lines by his muzzle out there, but I do kind of want to build up some darker value, right? Some darker tones on this side, because this side of his face is a little bit shadier. So his nose is pretty dark. Give a little bit of indication of that there. And if I was painting this, you know, or even if I was drawing with a pencil, I would do some different things, because I would be able to make some shading just a little differently. Here I want to be careful, especially since I'm not erasing anything. And it's really hard to erase with a pen, right? So I wouldn't, even if I was using a real pen, not this digital thing, I wouldn't be able to erase things. So I have to kind of slowly kind of build things up. And he's got a little white patches up there, and then the top of his head, mostly dark. And his face is really completely black. But I want to make it even a little bit darker in here, because it'll make that eye kind of stand out. And it'll make it look like this shady side of his face. Last thing I'm going to do with this drawing is I'm going to just do a little bit with his ear, and then there's this part of his ear that's really, really dark down here because it's like on the underside, right? So I can have these little swoopy lines that sort of give you the flow and sort of the movement of his ear too. And then now you have this nice like little shadow, and that's a nice contrast to the other parts of his face. I can even do a little bit of that kind of down here too. So even though I'm not going to color his whole body black, I can maybe make a few more marks just to make him look like he is overall sort of a different color than the dog bed. I feel pretty good about that now, though, with the pen drawing here. So I think I'll move on to prompt number 2, the Rocket Man. I honestly have no idea how long this video has been going, so I hope it's not going too long for you guys. You can take a break. You don't have to watch all of it. You could pause it. You could come back to it. But I'm gonna zoom in here, or not really change it too much. Maybe I will just zoom in a little bit, make this slightly bigger for myself. Yeah, there we go. So for this one, I'm going to do my Rocket Man drawing and give you guys just the experience of watching this for a little bit. I don't know why, but what I started with was the face mask. And I just had this idea, right, that, okay, I'm going to do a rocket guy. And so if you're blasting off somewhere into outer space, just whatever it might be, maybe not blasting too far, you might probably want to wear a helmet. You might want to wear, something. So then then I decided, all right, well, so this, if the face mask is on something, you know, it's a little bit like this, and then maybe there's some like little like rivet sort of details there. I don't want to get too much into the details though before I block everything in, right? Before I kind of get my general details. So the chin is kind of sticking out from here, and I was thinking of this as me, and if I stick my head straight up, you can see a little more of my neck, and then got my head sort of like angled up, so my neck comes down longer in the front and then it's shorter in the back, right, where kind of things like wrinkle up. And then I've got a shirt here and shoulders, and it's like I had this thought that, okay, well, maybe I'm sort of wearing like a backpack thing, and then I'm, so here, like, this is again like we're just like blocking things in. And then if I'm wearing a backpack, then maybe also I'm like, you know, like when you sometimes are wearing a backpack and you kind of grab, oh, that's not as nice as I drew it the first time, but that's all right. You grab the straps, right? So the straps, especially if you're getting ready to like blast off, straps are going in my hand, and I don't know, I think I decided I drew like a watch on here, because right, if I'm like reaching up a little bit like that, then your sleeve gets a little bit shorter, and maybe you'd see something. Now, I was not looking at a photograph when I did this. I was looking at a photograph when I drew Quince. But this is just kind of the experience of things, right? Sometimes you think about like, all right, what happens when I lift my arm up? And then there's my chest. I don't know what I'm wearing there. I'm putting a little more shadow in there. And then I thought, well, okay, what kind of rocket backpack am I really wearing? And I wasn't really clear on that. And so again, this is for like little creativity, a little bit of imagination. I thought, well, what if I had, maybe Miss Rice had given us like a science experiment, like for this break, right, where we got to do like one of those soda pop sort of explosion kind of things. I'm sorry, scientists, I didn't really like, nail the description of that correctly. But so what if for my Rocket Man, I took the soda pop bottle and the water, the liquid, Coca-Cola, whatever it might be, is sloshing around here, so it's bubbling a little bit, and that is going to be the fuel to blast me up into sort of, well, I don't know if I'd really make it to space with that amount of fuel. That's probably not going to get me very far. I'm wearing a little bit of a sweatshirt or something. Now, the proportions of this drawing in my art packet are a little bit different. You end up seeing a little bit more of my legs, so you guys can check that out. But the frame is coming right here, so can't do too much more. The other thing you can't see in this drawing is I had to decide, like, well, how does, so here's the other thing. So, it's like, this is not Buzz Lightyear, but he's, pointing his hand up. Because we're gonna blast off. We're gonna blast off into the sky. I didn't quite give myself enough space for that hand, so that, so you can always just keep sort of drawing. So his thumb is a little bit folded over, and there's that kind of like meaty part of your hand, and then the finger sticking up. Oh, that's better. So my sleeve might be a little bit, again, stick my hand up in the air, and my sleeve's going to get shorter. You guys get the idea. So it's pointing to the sky. It's holding on to this like bottle rocket thing. Now I need the straps that come on and attach this thing. So we got out some duct tape, right? Rip that duct tape in half, and then I tape, big, ugly, messy tape job here. Get that taped on. Oh, there's more sort of duct tape. Maybe this is a really do-it-yourself project, so that duct tape's not completely attached there. Maybe I mounted this on like a little 2x4 too, so that, or a little 1x4, let's say, so it's a little bit stable on my back. Now I've got everything kind of kind of roughed in here. So I got the helmet on. I got this the soda pop. It's all shaken up and it's like bubbling. Now what I just want to do with a little bit less the time we have, and like I said, you can stop this anytime. You do not have to watch the whole thing. I'm just going to do this almost the same thing I did with Quince and the home drawing. I'm just going to add a few more layers of detail with some cross hatching and sort of building up. I want to say color on some level, but it's not color. It's black and white. So it's like value. So to make it look like there's some liquid in here, I need to make it look darker. So I need to have more lines, more concentrated lines, right? So I'm doing that, and you know, in the places where the duct tape goes across, I won't, and then it'll look like the duct tape. You know, my soda pop bottle is going to be full all the way down because it's upside down, right? And then now really, if you were drawing with pen or a pencil, try to avoid like just coloring it solid right away. Give yourself a chance to have some lighter areas and some darker areas. It looks like there's more movement in here now. It looks like that soda might be really sloshing around. The other thing you have to look for, you can make it sort of fizzing a little bit. You can make it shaking a little bit. If you go to the Liberty Bell Instagram account, you can see in that drawing, I had my dog down here getting ready to bite this bottle cap off, and that was my thought on how I was going to blast off. It was going to be like, you know, 3, 2, 1, right? And then Quince would just like grab the cap here and pull it off, and I would shoot off into I'd probably make it, you know, like 0 inches off the ground in this particular scenario. But in an imaginary sense, maybe I would blast off into space. Anyway, so here's last thing I want to do is I want to make it look like there's some parts a little bit more shady. All right, give it a little more shape almost. I can darken some of these lines up, or I can do some more cross hatching. This also makes it look like my sweatshirt is kind of like a little bit wrinkly by having that kind of texture in there. Now my pants, for the sake of this drawing, are darker. So let's again, sort of like the soda pop, make that a little bit different than this sweatshirt. You get a little more variety, a little more contrast, and it makes for an interesting drawing. Okay, so pants. All right, we got that. Now we can do a little bit more up on the sleeve here. Oh, well, that one line got a little bit darker than I wanted. It's okay. Just go back in and make some more dark around it, and then the whole sweatshirt will look like it's a little darker on that side. And I'll make a little more shadow here, a little more shadow here. All right, I think you guys get the idea. This is my Rocket Man. I think I also put like a little like mountain range in the background, just to sort of set the stage. You know, put this in like some sort of time and place, some sort of setting. I'm gonna draw some slightly different sort of hills shapes here. Those are a little bit closer, and then I could, if I make some sort of even darker lines. You know, these are like maybe some trees in the background, like I'm gonna stand out my front yard, getting ready to conduct this experiment, blast off into space. So, you know, it doesn't take much, right? Those start to look like trees, just a few scratchy lines. And if I make some of them sort of smaller, and make some of them come down a little bit here, and some of them back there. Right. A few more. What's nice too, what's happening here is that you're getting now a little more of that space filled up. Now these are just sketches, but still, now there's a little balance, right? You've got this kind of darker like shape here. Now there's a little more dark over here by the trees, and it keeps this picture from feeling like it's tipping over towards this stuff. Just the fact that there's a little bit more going on down here in this corner helps kind of balance out the whole picture. That feels good to me for now. That feels good for the Rocket Man. I'm going to zoom back out with just one last time. So we got our daily drawings up to date here. I know I need to do one more for today, but I don't know if I'll draw them all for you. This is a lot for you to watch. You don't have to watch everything. But I'm going to stop my screen sharing. Stop the sharing. And there we go. Daily drawings, home and Rocket Man. I hope you're working on yours. I hope you will email me some photos so that I can share them, or that you will share them yourself and that we can see them and people can start talking about them. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. See you later. Bye.